Thought I'd do another little video because I'm sort of in between another video that I'm doing, and there's so many things going on that you sort of like, I don't know, I get a rush of shit that I'm like, oh my god, what do I do? What should I do? And I stop sort of doing something and start something else in my head. And so I'm trying to get myself a bit more organized. And I've got one video sort of in the middle, but it means editing, which I'm a bit shit at. And one of my other videos is really chipmunk fast because I wanted to see if I did everything right, would I be able to get it through the copyright issue? And I think it might be because I didn't cite who it was that I got the sources from. So I'm not 100% sure. But that clip, to be honest, had been sort of put around so many times that I don't know, you know, I don't know. It just, I thought that because it was so around the houses that it would be all right, but I shouldn't assume, and I won't assume in future. So anyway, yeah, I've been on the train, on the bus, and in the shops in the last few weeks and days, and the conversation's really quite sad. I'm overhearing because I'm one of those people. I tend to just listen to what's going on around me quite a lot, a bit nosy. And yeah, like a few weeks ago, I think I mentioned in the advert, the video I did about chocolate and stuff, that I'd seen like an old couple and they were really worried and they were going, God, look at the price of everything, and God, John, you know, what are we going to do sort of job. And it really broke my heart, and I told them, you know, to go to Aldi because there's better quality, because they're actual chocolate biscuits in Aldi rather than chocolate flavoured like our Penguins and Clubs have become. So I did sort of try and encourage them to go there, and I sort of had a chat with them. And then about a week later, I was on the laundrette. On the laundrette, it's not really an inn; it's an outside laundrette. So I was talking to another lady, and I said, "Oh, are you retired?" And she said, "Well, I am, but I don't know how I'm going to be able to afford it. I'm running out of money. I was fine, but now I'm looking at having to go back into work because I don't think I'm going to have any money pretty soon. It's quite worrying." Just the price increase of everything is just so insane. There was also, I was on the train 2 days ago and I heard a couple. Sorry, there's a snoring dog in the background, by the way. I'm not just slowly farting noises out. Yeah, there's a couple of people talking on the train, and one of the things that I overheard was that his son doesn't have a chance at a mortgage. He's going to be renting until this guy dies. He says, you know, the only time he's going to get a house realistically is when I die. And he was worried about his pension pot, and he said, you know, I don't think there's going to be a state pension. And what are the older people doing that can't go back to work? It must be terrifying for them. And those are ones that I watch. I think it was like a year ago I watched an old lady looking at mince pies and sort of like looking at the price and gasping and walking away, and I thought to myself, yeah, it's crazy. Like the things have jumped, not just sort of, I went for a recession years ago. I remember rice went from 20p to 40p, but this is sort of like 80% to 100% inflation on some products. I was in the shops 2 nights ago, and a young couple were wandering around and they went, what world are we living in? I know this is a convenience shop, but everywhere we go, the prices are just insane for things. I think even my chap and me were talking about some French fancies the other day, grabbing some French fancies, and the reduced price was £2 odd, and they were a cheap cake, you know, fairly cheap, but they're out of the price range now. And it reminded me of an interview I saw with a landlord a few years ago who was being interviewed about the housing crisis over here. And he said that he had increased the rents recently because the estate agents had told him that the rest of the places around him had increased, so he could up his money. And they said, you know, did you need to up it? And he goes, well, not really, but you know, I was told to up it, so I did. And they said, well, in light of that, understanding the fact that people are struggling, will you be lowering the rent? And he went, no. And this is the thing, things go up and they never come back down. And it's really sad that, you know, this slimy, leechy, in my opinion, bastard landlord has just decided to fill his greedy guts up, and that's what's happening to the people in England. It's really sad. I mean, also I experienced a little bit of um, sort of living in a van life for a little while, and I went back to a place where I'd once lived, where it was a car park near a public toilet, beautiful view, and people used to camp there overnight occasionally, move along. And I remember looking out of my balcony and looking down. It was beside the Tamar Bridge, and that car park had a couple of camper vans. A couple of van lifers come through, and they'd set up a little picnic, and then they'd bugger off after a couple of days. And I spoke to a lassie that I met on a walk around there, and I was talking, and they were saying about how people were taking the piss down there. And on one hand, I totally get it. I mean, some of them have got all their shit out on the grass, and they're basically taking over the pavement, which is not fair on the locals. That's their beauty spot. That's their main attraction, is that little bit on the Saltash Green. Equally, not all of them are doing that, but I think there's one van in particular that was a bit naughty, but like the rest of them are blatantly people that are just struggling to survive. And the reaction is not understanding, but sort of contempt, I think, from a lot of people. There's a town I'm near right now where there's a lot of van lifers, and the council are rumbling about it. And I understand to an extent, the ones I'm nearby aren't making a mess anywhere. Yeah, you've got little chimneys sticking out, a little bit of smoke sticking out, so that someone's in that one. You can see the steamed up windows of a morning. But it's like, I see it like this is like musical chairs. Like some people were able to sit down in time, and now they're just watching everyone else with a smug expression, I'm sorry to say. These people here judging, Well, I used to sit on that balcony, and that car park wasn't full of van lifers. It wasn't 2 years ago. This is a direct result of not having houses. And you can say that there's no issue with immigration, but the country is filling up. And I'm on a bus quite often, and I can see the difference on a bus. I was a minority coming from Saltash into Plymouth on more than one occasion on the bus. It was an African voiced bus. Not every day, but there was plenty of occasions that I thought, fucking hell, I've gone away and come back, and there's a huge difference on the same bus that I was taking, the same route. I'm noticing a massive difference. I'm thinking, well, I couldn't find a house with any spare rooms going. We came down a few years before and we couldn't find anything, and then this time there was nothing. I even offered to pay 6 months up front for a room, and yeah, we were told no. And it's not my imagination that there's no housing, and that the bus is half full of people from other countries, and that the British people are the ones living in the vans out there. I'm not seeing, immigrants coming down and doing that. And it's not the people that are coming in line. I totally get that people coming in line that are waiting their turn, that's fair enough. Equally, at the same time, even the ones that are coming in legally, they need to stop this for a minute. We haven't got houses. We're not able to live. It's horrible to watch. And I think, if you've got these people that are living in your area, I mean, I get it. If people are shitting in the bushes, I've had a dog eat shit, human shit, and it's fucking awful. It's disgusting, and those things, they are shameful for doing that. The people that are doing that, or that are taking over an area and intimidating people, that's not fair. That's not what I'm talking about. This is a minority. But a lot of people are stuck. They're stranded. And I think if you can just have a little bit of compassion for that, and perhaps instead of turning your anger on the people, perhaps turn your anger towards your government for doing this, because I lived in that flat. I didn't see this happen. And I do think that, it's easy to sit on top of your little pile when you're tucked in nicely and have no concept of what it's like to be looking for a place where there's no place. There's nothing. There's nothing for the British people. I hate to think of the teenagers and the students and the young people as well. I got the luxury of being able to live in a flat of my own, basically. I paid every penny to do that, I didn't have a lot of money spare, but I at least had the ability to do that. I used to be able to rock up and knock on a door and ask for a job, and then I'd be in there doing the dishes. And it's been a long time since I've had to do that. And recently I don't know if people know it, but the government ID, I don't know if it was just specifically for this job, but I couldn't get this new job without having the government ID. And I've heard that that's how they're sneaking it in, is that they're not making it so that everyone has to have one, but if you want to get a new job, part of that new job is to have the government ID. And then I had to prove my national insurance number. It was just maddening, and it's not fair. They've snuck it in, basically. So you won't need a digital ID until you need a new job. Now, how are you going to go about life without a new job? The British government are squeezing us financially and our liberties with it. Says my today's rant. I'll do another video. I'm hoping to go live soon because I'm a bit better off, I think, just chatting live, and I'd like to sort of have debates and conversations and deliberate, because I found out that I actually prefer deliberation to debate. I don't really want to win. I just want to understand people and be understood, because I think that's the only way to find a middle ground respectfully, you know, that solves everyone's issues. But yeah, I got to 40 subscribers, so I'm really grateful. So thank you so much for that. That's really awesome. I was a bit like, wow, I was shocked, especially my last video went up and it was like a chipmunk speed. It was more just a test to see if the British people would be able to see something, because they took my video. I'm going to do a video about it, but it was fishy. In my opinion, it was fishy how they did it. It was kind of a bit in the realm, I think, of shadow banish. So I'm going to do a video on shadow banning, and it's just weird shit that's going on the internet that I've noticed for a while. So I'll do that, and thank you so much for subscribing, and I'll put more content up soon and try and be a bit more regular about it. I'm feeling much more confident. Thank you for all your support, and have a good day. Bye bye.